I'm Evelyn Ritter. I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm the Director of Customer Success at Toxnot. We're a software platform that is motivated to help product manufacturers collect their supply chain data, discover what's going on in their supply chain, document compliance, disclose on sustainability, and design safer products. And you'll notice this little PBC in our name. That's a public benefit corporation. So we are looking to create improve supply chains as well as figure out how to get this data to flow better across the supply chain as well. So what are Toxnot shared materials? This is a subset of the overall Toxnot platform that allows publishing of data between different parties using the Toxnot database. We have been focused on this because we know that we need to make it easier for updates to flow from a manufacturer to their supplier and down the supply chain. And we need to reduce the time and effort to get data across that supply chain. Today in Toxnot shared materials, there are two ways for data to be passed. The manufacturer can request information from their supplier. That supplier will then fill out that data request and publish to Toxnot shared materials. Or the supplier can first proactively disclose on Toxnot shared materials, and then the manufacturer can access that data either via a link that that supplier shares or by searching the Toxnot shared materials platform. So this is what that looks like in a diagram. The whole point is to reduce those repeated survey responses about the same material. So you can see here that there's this request is coming from the product manufacturer and going to that ingredient supplier. Then the ingredient supplier will fill out that request and go ahead and record that material. The product manufacturer will be notified and will be able to reference that material and use it in any products or materials that they have that they're making in their library. If the ingredient supplier updates that material, the product manufacturer will automatically be notified and will be able to include that update in their product record and be able to update their information as well. The biggest thing that we see about this is that this way the supplier can really own their data, know what's disclosed, see it in their publications platform, and feel confident in what they've shared and how that's being used. Similarly, so I talked about the two different ways to disclose. So this top one represents the request for a shared material and then sharing that material back. The bottom one represents the supplier proactively disclosing that data and then sharing that to the material record and then the product manufacturer accessing that data. I do want to clarify that there are also Toxnot private surveys that follow the standard data request, kind of mirroring the email process, where the product manufacturer just send a private data request to the supplier completes that and sends it back. The supplier has no insight into, well, they can see their past answers, but they can't make any changes. They can't make updates to that survey, and it needs to be resent anytime, for example, a compliance list change, or anytime that data needs to be updated. And so these are both totally valid approaches to get that data from the supply chain. We just think that there's a lot of efficiency that can be created with the Toxnot shared materials. One thing I want to highlight, because it comes up right away in every supplier conversation, is proprietary data protections. We know that it's really important that there's certain confidential business information that's included in this data, and we know that it is essential to keep that safe. And so one piece that we've built, and we're going to talk about a few of the other proprietary data protections in Toxnot. One of the features that we've built is that when you as a supplier fill out this data request, you can go ahead and mark certain chemicals as proprietary. And then what that will do is when it feeds back to the requester, they will only see that the chemical is proprietary. They'll be able to screen it against the standard compliance and hazard lists in Toxnot, and they'll be able to see the overall green screen list translator or green screen score, but they won't be able to see the chemical or the CAS number. Now, we're going to move into a live demo of Toxnot. So I'm first going to start with that first type of data exchange that I talked about, where the manufacturer goes ahead and requests that information from their supplier. Then I'll go into what it looks like to proactively publish that. And so we'll take a look at both of those, but first I'm going to start with the proactive publishing. Here you can see the email that you'll receive as a supplier if you receive one of these data requests. In this particular example, I've included the entire LP50 Supplier Letter, and that's part of a standard template in Toxnot that manufacturers can send out. And so you'll go ahead and click here to accept the request. You'll then be prompted to sign in or sign up for free. In my case, I already have an account, so I'll go ahead and sign in. And then I'll go ahead and click accept request and get started now. You can see this privacy and confidentiality data is available here and in the previous screen. That shows you our user terms and conditions. Our platform, as part of the standard user terms, comes with an NDA for any chemicals that you mark in proprietary or that you just store in this Toxnot system and don't share with anyone. And so you can read all of those terms and conditions, get introduced to our privacy requirements and what we're willing to offer there, and read more about that there. You can also forward this response to a new owner. So at any point, if you're filling out the data and you're like, I'm not the right person to be working on this, you can go ahead and forward the response. It'll save everything you've already filled out, and that new person will just receive the request. When you actually start reading the survey, you'll see the Toxnot instructions in blue, and then you'll see your customer's instructions below. And that's why it says a message from myself. And then we can go ahead and click next step. Next, you'll be prompted to add the material data. You'll see what they've requested. And if you're filling out this for many materials, we have a lot of different bulk options, such as a bulk import and being able to import data from SDS sheets, for example. And so we really want to make it easy, whether you're filling out the data for 1 material, 5 materials, or 100 materials. We're going to help you do that. And we're also looking for feedback on ways to make that easier. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this data. You can import it from your Toxnot library, from a spreadsheet, or an SDS file. In this case, I'm going to just go ahead and use that simple data form to show you what that looks like. So you'll be asked to add your CAS numbers or any other substances that are used in your material. I'm going to go ahead and add in this nylon CAS number, and then I can add the material percent by weight. You can include ranges, or you can just include an individual percentage. Then I'm going to add a new row. When you do your publication, you'll be able to convert those specific percentages to ranges if that's part of protecting your confidential business information. I'll add a colorant next. And then I can mark this chemical as proprietary. We talked about this a little bit already. I'll go ahead and just select the proprietary setting, and you can see what that'll look like for your requester. You can either share that chemical name or mark it as proprietary. We can also go ahead and enter the amount of this particular chemical, and then we can go ahead and click done. We can see that material content data is completed, and then you can edit the name, photo, and description. This is what will show up in the Toxnot Shared Materials Library. So it's important to include any information that you want about this material. You can include the trade name I would also recommend the material description, including any applications it's used in, if it has any particular attributes that you might want to feature that someone might search for. You would add that there. And then you can also upload a photo of your material. Next, I'll move to the next step. And you'll see completion instructions that come from your customer, recognizing you for or thanking you for filling this out. And then you'll move to the submit response step. Once everything's completed, you'll see that the response is ready to be submitted. And you have the option to publish your responses on Toxnot shared materials. You can choose to not publish your responses, but we highly recommend that if your customer has asked for you to share that publicly, you go ahead and do that. You also will get the marketing benefit of this material showing up on Toxnot shared materials. And when we get to the preview, I'll show you a bit more what that looks like. So in terms of options, there's the company name, your company logo. This is where I was talking about. You can convert all weights and percentages to ranges. So I'll go ahead and select that checkbox. And I also want to accept the Toxnot terms of use. At this point, I'll go ahead and preview the shared material. And then I'm going to go ahead and open this preview in a new tab for us to look at. So anyone who has the link to your shared material listing will be able to see the area under this first box. They'll be able to see the company name, the material name, the logo, anything you've included in the description. And then they'll be able to click on the view material ingredient data or add to their material library. Only people who have a Toxnot account will be able to do this step, but people with a free Toxnot account will be able to go ahead and view their material ingredient data or add it to their material library. You'll also be able to see the shared material and substance information and how those ranges have been applied to help protect that confidential business information if that's important for your publication. At that point, you can go ahead and publish and submit response. And that will go ahead and create a publication in your library. Because it's so important to us that suppliers can view and own and update their own data, you'll be able to see anything you publish in the publications dashboard. And so you'll see that this information has been published, that you can now view the information about that material, you can view that shared material, and you can edit and update that data as needed. So that pretty much wraps up that first process where your manufacturer, your customer you're working with has requested you share out a Toxnot shared material for a particular material or product they're using in their system. Next, I'm going to go into the proactive disclosure. And so if you want to proactively disclose some of your materials for the marketing benefits because multiple different customers are asking for them and you want to share them with those multiple different customers, this is how you would do that. So I'm going to move into my products library. And so this is your overall product library. And if you enter data here, this is completely protected. It's not shared until you choose to disclose it. So if I go ahead and click on an example of this chemical and material, you'll see the list of chemicals that I've entered in the system, their specific roles, the percent of each of those chemicals in this material. You can see all of those showing up in this display. This data can be entered manually just by typing it in, or it can be imported via a product or material import, or it could be added via an SDS sheet. So there's a lot of flexibility on how data can be added to Toxnot. From there, you'll go ahead and click Report and Toxnot Shared Material and Substance Inventory. It'll first present you with a preview of your shared material listing, as well as a preview of the data you'll be sharing on Toxnot. So let's go ahead and start a Toxnot shared material. And here you can set your publication settings. And you have a lot more flexibility around what you want to publish, how you want that to look. And so, for example, you can select the report type. You can select the specific columns to publish. So this could include things like percent recycled content, if it's a biodegradable, recyclable, bio-based material, and other information in the system. You can include a disclosure threshold. Well, you're required to include a disclosure threshold to help us understand to what level you're disclosing this material. And you can automatically remove substances below that threshold when you publish that material. Next, you can publish this one for everyone to see, default. And so that's that public disclosure that we're talking about that really helps connect the supply chain. Or you can publish only to specific people, and they will be notified, and you'll be able to add or remove email addresses, but only the person with that email address as their Toxnot account will be able to access that data. From there, you'll be able to mark all substances as proprietary. We don't recommend this because it does not often help with the transparency disclosure very much, but we do understand that often you need to mark some of the substances as proprietary, and then you can convert all weights and percentages to ranges, which we've already set up as a setting. And you can also convert a BOM to a basic inventory of substances. So basically, if you have a set of mixtures that make up your overall product that you're selling, what you can do is enter those different mixtures at the different percentages they are in the system. And then when you go ahead and do your publication, you can go ahead and select this setting, and it will reduce all of those mixtures just to a basic inventory of substances based on how much of each chemical is in each mixture and how much mixture is in each product. You can also publish compliance data, such as California Proposition 65 information, and we'll see what that looks like in just a second. Again, you'll add your product and material image, manufacturer logo, whatever you want to include in terms of information that would help a potential customer find this product or help you disclose this information. And then you'll be ready for publication. At that point, you can save a draft, preview, or publish now. I'm going to go ahead and preview this material. So again, this is the shared material listing. You can share this with any customer if you choose to publish publicly. If you publish privately, no one will be able to find it in the system, except for those specific email addresses you shared it to. So that's one of the balances that we're trying to strike is, being able to find that material data that you need. So you'll see the summary row of this material, and then the chemicals that are listed, if they're marked proprietary, how they'll show up, and the listed roles. You can also see the compliance information, such as whether or not it contains chemicals listed on California Prop 65, whether those chemicals require disclosure. You can include notes and even supporting files. And then you can go ahead and edit this information or go ahead and publish. It will ask you to review our terms and conditions, and then once you've done that, you can go ahead and accept. And then you'll click done, and that substance will be published. You or your customer will be able to search for shared material in the Toxnot shared material library. We also have some featured materials listed here. And this is where I'm talking about the overall view of that material, and you can go ahead and share even this link with a customer. They'll be able to access that link whether or not they have a Toxnot account, and then once they get a Toxnot account, they can view the material ingredient data or add it to their material library. If you need help as you're getting started, we have this chat button to be able to reach out to our support staff. So please go ahead, and if you have questions or comments, please reach out. And then there's also the Help Center in Toxnot. And so if you just search for Toxnot shared materials, you'll be able to get an article that will help you create a shared material, help you use shared materials in your library, and be able to really dig into this system. Now I'm going to return to our PowerPoint. And one of the big things we see this as is starting a conversation. We understand that this is the beginning of a journey to try to make this data exchange work better for everyone involved. And we need to know more, and we need to hear more feedback from you on how can we help protect the proprietary data while disclosing that chemical transparency information that your customers need. We want to help understand on how we help you get marketing value from this effort. One thing that we are trying to potentially exploring supporting in the future is being able to allow you to have a public Toxnot shared material that customers need to request access to, for example. So that's something that we could add to the system, but we need your feedback on what's most important. We also have built a lot of tools to help you manage many materials that are somewhat similar. So we have the ability to create groups in Toxnot that then you can say all of these materials have the same chemical content, and then that helps you manage many more materials. So also feedback on being able to manage more materials would be helpful. And what other features do you need to get started, and what do you need to disclose more in the future? Because this is something that's going to be a continued effort, and this is something that these requests have continued to grow. And then it also helps with the compliance data as meeting compliance requirements has gotten more and more complex, lists change more and more frequently. And so we have heard from the manufacturers we work with that this is extremely important.